making sure that you're taken seriously. And I feel like personal biases can definitely go into that, so that's why people feel like the need to code switch in order to almost like adapt to their way of of their perspective. My peers would understand where I'm coming from, but adults would, based on whatever experiences they have, may see me differently, and so I feel like I have to adapt to them almost. So that's kind of where the code switching comes into.
Right, so I code switch with every time I speak to someone, just because of simple fact. A lot of people aren't, too familiar with just the political process or even just programs in general, right? So I kind of read people's faces, and I know that when people they're like, what did you do talking about? So I would just do it that way. And the reason why I code switch with my peers is because, right, they don't care about a lot of things. But if you talk about jobs, you talk about opportunities, things like that. So you just kind of put it into where what's the key principles you want this person to know, right? So when I talk about Casey, the Innovation Center, Casey Hire, hey, Casey Hire, they'd be like, is this a city job? I mean, all the jobs are located in Kansas City. They're probably serious or somewhat of an importance of a job. So I just kind of let them know, like, hey, I just try to put in the key facts so whenever I'm explaining something.
Well, when I talk to my parents, I want them to know that I'm really adulting. So I don't want it to be, I just have a job. I want it to sound like I'm planning for my future and kind of doing things working towards that goal of like having a good career, as opposed to when I talk to my friends and I just sort of like more or less just like tell it like it is. And I'm like, yeah, I work with the nonprofit. They put me with City Hall so that I can keep doing my internship. Yeah. I mean, as a Black person, I code switch constantly. And I don't really keep track because it's just all the time. But I know I do code switch generationally within my race. That's more like based on cultural norms. I guess I code switch between friend groups based on like how good of friends they are. I honestly don't really talk to males that much, so I really can't tell if I code switch between genders, but I guess I code switch between when I'm talking to my trans friends versus my cis friends. But that's really all I can. And then, of course, like at work versus when I'm not at work.
Code switching around certain type of people to just be more acceptable and to like look more professional and articulate. Whereas in other settings, like with friends or people younger, I might use more slang or try to be funny in conversation.
Yeah. My speech changes when I'm talking to adults rather than my friends or my family, because my friends and family will understand what I'm trying to articulate. I feel like adults or anyone different than me wouldn't try to understand. So I feel like I have to kind of switch up. Age and work environment is definitely a big impact as well. Like, I understand if I'm trying to be as close to a person or I'm trying to be like an acquaintance and seen as a future friend, it definitely will change. Like, I'll be more comfortable being more myself. But when I go into a work environment and try to act professional, in a sense, I'd have to censor the ways that I speak or stand or that.
The jargon changes depending on who I'm talking to. If they're like familiar with like what I do, then I can like bring up words that we bring up in like work or whatever. But if they're not familiar with it at all and they do something completely different, then I might have to be a little bit broader with my vocabulary. And then I think like depending on who that person is, I might like avoid certain topics and certain vocabulary because it might offend them.